alkaline water is pretty expensive. And people drink alkaline water because they think it has health benefits, but it really doesn't translate into any physiologically measurable benefit. But if you really wanted to alkalinize your diet, you need to eat foods high. Yesterday, my friend was supposed to come over, but she couldn't even walk because her toe was too painfully swollen to even stand. Apparently, she went to town eating ham the day before and regretted it the day after. Raise your hand if you've ever had regrets after eating certain foods. We've all been there, especially in our 30s when our body starts to change and we can no longer tolerate that kind of food abuse. So I'm going to share with you the top 10 foods that I shared with her to reduce inflammation. Now, number 1 are cherries, which are rich in anthocyanins and antioxidants. Believe it or not, they have been shown to reduce inflammation and even lower uric acid. Now, uric acid is a waste product created by the body's natural breakdown of purines, which are substances found naturally in the body and in certain foods such as red meat, seafood, and alcohol. The more cells your food has, the more purines it will have in it. And this is because purines make DNA and RNA. So they make genes, which are the DNA, and the messengers that translates those genes, which are the RNA. Purines are naturally broken down the liver into uric acid as a part of normal cellular metabolism. Now, uric acid, it usually dissolves in the blood and is filtered out by the kidneys to end up in the urine. But when there is an excess amount of uric acid or when the kidneys don't work correctly, uric acid can accumulate in the bloodstream and precipitate out. This is hyperuricemia. Some people naturally produce more uric acid or have less efficient kidneys, which can both lead to hyperuricemia. Obesity, and of course kidney disease, high blood pressure, and diabetes, they all can increase the risk. Diets high in purine foods, such as red meat and shellfish, or sugary foods, especially sugary beverages, and alcohol can all raise uric acid levels. And when you eat sucrose or high fructose, it's quickly broken down in the liver. And this rapid breakdown process uses up cellular energy, ATP, and produces several byproducts, including adenosine monophosphate, AMP, which ultimately leads to the formation of uric acid. The conversion of AMP to uric acid, that occurs in the liver. So the more fructose you consume, the more you overwhelm your liver to make uric acid to process that fructose. And over time, this high sugar intake, because sugar is half fructose, contributes also to insulin resistance, which affects your kidney function and increases your high blood pressure and reduces your kidney's ability to excrete uric acid, leading to elevated uric acid levels in the bloodstream. On top of that, fructose can also create oxidative stress that leads to inflammation. It exacerbates conditions like gout and can potentially increase the risk of other metabolic issues like diabetes. And the problem is uric acid is a crystal. So if you have too much, they form rocks in your bloodstream, but they go through cooler areas, so like your distal digits. And this is why your big toe is always so susceptible. And these crystals, they're like sharp sewing needles to irritate and destroy your joints. And when your immune system sees these crystals, they think they're foreign invaders. So white blood cells, such as neutrophils, they are sent over to swallow and just try to destroy the crystals. And when it attempts to do that, they release inflammatory chemicals. These chemicals are called cytokines, which are pro-inflammatory molecules that signal other immune cells to come to increase blood to kind of help them out. And this all contributes to redness, swelling, and heat, otherwise known as inflammation. So you have a buildup of blood and immune cells and inflammatory chemicals. Of course, this will lead to swelling and pain. And this is so intense that you can't put a sheet over it. That's called a gout attack. Now, if uric acid levels remain high, these inflammatory reactions, they will become chronic and they cause permanent joint damage. And these crystals can just build up into giant rocks called tophi, where you literally see lumps or nodules under the skin, especially around joints. Gout inflammation can be severe and sudden, right? People know them as gout flares or gout attacks, and they usually take anti-inflammatory medications to manage the symptoms. But did you know that lifestyle changes can reduce the intensity of gouty flares as well as the frequency of gouty flares? Traditionally, people have been told to avoid mushrooms, peas, beans, lentils, cauliflower, but in actuality, those vegetables are found to be protective. And this is probably because these foods are rich in fiber, which we know reduces inflammation. They also change the metabolites in your gut microbiome, which is like trillions of them. They are also high in vitamin C, which we know reduces inflammation. They're high in folate, which also reduces inflammation. And they all appear to protect against uric acid buildup. In fact, when you eat more vegetables, you're actually changing the pH of your urine. And this increases the secretion of uric acid into the toilet. You know, alkaline water is pretty expensive, right? And people drink alkaline water because they think it has health benefits, but it really doesn't translate into any physiologically measurable benefit. But if you really wanted to alkalinize your diet, you need to eat foods high in plants, whole plants, because they can actually change your pH in your urine to help you excrete harmful molecules like uric acid. So vegetarians actually have lower uric acid levels. So if you convert someone to a standard Western diet to a vegetarian diet, you actually reduce the risk of uric acid crystallization by 93%. So of course, I told my friend to stop eating ham and increase your vegetables. I mean, the ham is literally red meat, which acidifies the blood, reducing the amount of uric acid that she secretes. On top of that, ham is usually sweetened with sugar, right? The fructose. And that increases the amount of uric acid because you're burdening the liver. And I also told her to go get some cherries. Incorporating red bean cherries, actually about 45 of them, can reduce gouty flares. Cherries have anthocyanins that can reduce inflammation, including C-reactive protein numbers associated with gout flares. This can potentially relieve pain and swelling in the affected joints. So the next day, she felt so much better. Cherry phytonutrients also act as antioxidants to reduce oxidative stress, which can exacerbate gout. Now, she didn't actually have real cherries or frozen cherries. She drank tart cherry juice, which has also been shown to reduce uric acid levels. Regular consumption of cherries or cherry products can help to lower uric acid. Probably enough, if you do enough, to reduce the frequency and severity of gout attacks. Now, this is called everyday prevention. And if I were to do it every day, I would prefer to eat fresh cherries, but they're not always in season. So frozen cherries are a second best. But if that's not available, tart cherry juice also has anthocyanins, and I prefer them over other processed cherry products. And cherries have been observed to be beneficial since the 1950s. And sometimes people even ate them canned. Literally eating cherries over 2 days can reduce gouty attacks by 35%. Now make sure that your juice isn't adding sugar, because remember, sugar increases your fructose load, which will exacerbate inflammation and gout. Now, number 2 is this. This is a ginger. Ginger is an ancient remedy for all different reasons, from pain, from headaches, to pain in joints, to pain in the gut like irritable bowel, or even painful periods. Now, there are a few ways to consume ginger. You can do what my mom did and add it to everything that you cook. Literally, I used to complain that everything tasted like ginger. And her answer was, just eat it, it's good for you. I guess that's why I tell my kids, just eat it, it's good for you. Now, whenever I had a cold, my dad would ginger me up. He literally would take this much ginger and more and put it in a pot of boiling water, super concentrated, and give it to me as ginger tea. And I wasn't allowed to leave the table until I finished the entire cup. Now, ginger tea is one of the easiest and most effective ways to consume ginger, especially if you have a cold. It helps with hydration, it clears congestion, and it can soothe your throat. Traditionally, ginger has been used to relieve symptoms of the common cold, sore throats, and the flu for thousands of years. It has bioactive compounds like Gingerol and Zingerone, which interferes with the ability of the germs to attach to the mucous membranes in the respiratory tract, making it harder for them to replicate and spread. During a cold, the body produces inflammatory chemicals like cytokines, tumor necrosis factor, interleukin-6 as a part of a normal healthy immune response. These cytokines, they can cause the characteristic symptoms of colds, such as fevers, aches, and congestion. But of course, that's what makes us feel bad. So ginger can help by inhibiting the production of these cytokines, which reduces inflammation in the respiratory tree. Ginger also blocks COX enzymes, which are involved in producing inflammatory mediators like prostaglandins and leukotrienes that can cause more pain and fevers. And by inhibiting these enzymes, ginger reduces overall inflammation, thereby making us feel better, having less body aches and less sore throats. Now, because it has anti-inflammatory power and it has the ability to relax muscle cells, ginger can help relax airways. Now, this can help to reduce coughs and make breathing easier, right? So you can imagine that if you had lots of bronchial irritation or wheezing, it can potentially improve that airflow in your respiratory tree. Ginger also has a natural expectorant and mucolytic effect, meaning it helps to break up mucus in the respiratory tract. And this is really helpful when you're cold, right? And you're full of snot. It can help relieve that sinus and chest congestion. By thinning the mucus, it makes it easier for people to cough, to sneeze, to clear our airways. Now, if I'm not adding 1 or 2 teaspoons a day of a dry ginger spice to my water, then I'm swallowing a capsule or I'm grating it in my food, shaved in thin slices. Now, I mentioned a couple of bioactive compounds. Gingerol is the primary bioactive compound in fresh ginger. It's responsible for much of its medicinal properties because it has powerful anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. Shogaol is another compound that forms when ginger is dried or cooked. It is believed to be more potent than gingerol in reducing inflammation. Now, hence my dad always gave me hot ginger tea. Zingerone is another active compound that forms when ginger is cooked. It is antimicrobial, anti-inflammatory, it's an antioxidant. There are also Paradols, which are compounds similar to gingerol and Shogaol, which also adds to ginger's anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. And with these molecules, ginger reduces inflammation by several different mechanisms. One, it inhibits pro-inflammatory enzymes, such as cyclooxygenase and lipooxygenase, both of which are involved in producing inflammatory chemicals in the body, such as prostaglandins and leukotrienes. Ginger is also a strong antioxidant and neutralizes free radicals that contribute to oxidative stress and inflammation. And overall, it can help to reduce joint pain and stiffness in people with arthritis. It also can help to alleviate the symptoms of a particular arthritis called osteoarthritis. Sometimes you have to take it for a few months to get the greatest benefit of reducing pain and improving motility. Ginger is my go-to travel buddy because I have a pretty weak stomach and I'm prone to throwing up everywhere from motion sickness. And it is well known to treat nausea from motion sickness. Actually, it's good for morning sickness, that's during pregnancy, or even chemotherapy-induced nausea. Now, number 3 is a plant that I strive to eat every day, and that's kale. And I have to be honest with you, I don't really enjoy eating it. It's dry, it's tough, but it's good for me because it's one of the hardiest vegetables to keep in the fridge, so I don't waste a lot of product by procrastinating eating my vegetables. That spinach will rot in a couple of days, but that kale can last for a whole week. But the goal is not to have your vegetables around for a whole week, right? The goal is to eat them. Now, kale comes in all different shades and looks. There's purple kale, curly kale, but my favorite is the dinosaur kale. That's because it's super duper green. Most of the time when you go to restaurants, you're gonna be served curly kale. It's milder, it's not as tough, but honestly, it's a pain in the butt to wash. You have to wash your kale. It's a broad leaf, so it traps air pollution, as well as aphids. All kale contains a unique phytonutrient called Glucoraphanin. And that gets converted to sulforaphane, which is the critical nutrient that protects you against oxidative stress. Oxidation is a normal process even of metabolism, but it damages your cells, your proteins, fats, and DNA. And when these vital components are damaged, your metabolism will take a hit, which then causes your blood sugars to go up, your blood pressure to go up, and you get wrinkly, you get tired, and that's just the beginning of aging, from damaging free radicals such as singlet oxygen, hydrogen peroxide, superoxides, and hydroxyl anions. Free radicals, they burn your cells, kind of like the medallion on the Raiders of the Lost Ark burning that guy's hand. And when enough of your cell structures suffer, you get disease like eczema, hay fever, hives, diabetes, heart disease, and cancers. Hence, it's super important that we strive to eat foods rich in antioxidants. to slow down aging. Unfortunately, no matter how clean you eat, your body will still undergo oxidative stress produced by your own metabolism because the air you inhale really isn't that clean. And in this air is oxygen, which then oxidizes things. But if you're breathing cigarette smokes, forest fires, restaurant fumes, barbecue smokes, cooking fumes, candles, or even freeway exhaust, well, you're going to be inhaling more free radicals. And this is why you need to eat the antidote every day, because everybody breathes air. And kale is one of those powerful antioxidants. So remember to pre-chop your kale, let it stand for 30 minutes to release the enzyme called myrosinase that's trapped in the cells. Myrosinase is needed to convert glucoraphanin into sulforaphanes. But sometimes, if you're in a hurry, you have to cook it, then you can just throw in a pinch of mustard seed powder right after you cook it so that you can add the myrosinase and it can start converting your glucoraphanin into sulforaphanes. Now, don't cook that as myrosinase is not heat stable. Now, I like dinosaur kale because it's really green. And the more green it is, the more chlorophyll it has. So number 4, look for chlorophyll-rich foods to eat. Now, my father-in-law used to juice wheatgrass. It is one of the richest sources of chlorophyll. But I have to admit, that stuff tastes pretty bitter. Chlorophyll is also found in Corellia and Spirulina, which are both algae. Now, we all know it's green, and that green pigment is found in both plants and algae. It's responsible for absorbing light to produce photosynthesis. And so we're just borrowing the plant's machines for our health benefits to help detoxify our bodies, to support our digestion, and to provide antioxidants. Now, in the center of that chlorophyll molecule is a magnesium molecule, which is number 5. Magnesium is a mineral essential for metabolism, and it is involved in over 300 normal daily biochemical reactions. The scary thing is, if you don't have enough magnesium in your diet, do you know where your body gets magnesium from? Your bone. So don't risk osteoporosis and make sure you have an adequate amount of magnesium daily. So you may wonder, what is a diet rich in magnesium? Well, magnesium-rich foods are in seeds like pumpkin seeds, chia seeds, leafy green like the kale I mentioned, and beans. And if that's not your diet, you're most likely eating a magnesium-deficient diet. Now, magnesium deficiency is subtle. This is a very hard condition to diagnose, as your body will withdraw its own assets from your bone. I mean, it's in charge of over 300 metabolic processes, so it's that important. However, when it gets bad enough, you will notice problems contracting your muscles. You may go into spasms and cramps, especially in your legs and feet. These are known as Charlie horses. You may get muscle twitching or tightness. These are also common symptoms. You remember, your heart is the most important muscle. And if you don't get enough magnesium, that'll affect how your heart will beat. There are also muscles in your blood vessels. And if you're struggling with high blood pressure, well, could it be that you don't have enough magnesium? The presence of magnesium helps to reduce your blood pressure by relaxing your blood vessels. And your gut, it's also made out of magnesium. And if you're magnesium deficient, you're just going to be constipated because it takes muscle to move that poop down. In order for you to get energy, you need magnesium. So if your body doesn't have enough, you can feel weak and low in energy and suffer from chronic fatigue, even if you've slept enough. Have you ever had pain or numbness or tingling that lasted for a while? And this may be because you're deficient in magnesium. Magnesium is important for a healthy nervous system. It can impair nerve function to cause those symptoms. Some people call it pins and needles. Literally, your largest nerve is your brain. So people with magnesium deficiency can get headaches and migraines, or they can have more mental health mood issues like anxiety, depression, and irritability. And you can imagine that your sleep will be affected as well, as you need a functional brain to sleep well. Some people have difficulty falling asleep or staying asleep, or they're restless when they sleep. For a mineral as important as magnesium, I actually don't take any chances. I fill my meals with leafy greens, nuts and seeds, whole grains and legumes, and I take a supplement daily. Hi friends, I am so thrilled that you want to take charge of your health and take charge of your food. Now, I know nutrition can be complex, but it doesn't have to be. And I'm here to support you in this lifelong journey. So if you point your camera app to this
QR code, it'll take you to a link for a free handout that I created just for you. And if you like it, if you want to see other handouts, please go to the link in my show notes, and then you can leave me your feedback on what I could do to help you in your journey. Okay, back to the video now.
Number 6 is broccoli, which is another cruciferous vegetable shown to be the most powerful family of vegetables in preserving your health span, even against cancer. Now, women with higher urinary metabolites of sulforaphane had actually lower risks of breast cancer. I'm always encouraging my kids to eat broccoli. This study showed that at least 5 servings a week was associated to reduce the risk of lymphomas. Now, it's not just broccoli, it's really all cruciferous vegetables have some amounts of glucosinolates, which become sulforaphanes after you chop them up and you release the enzyme myrosinase. Now, myrosinase is super important as you need this enzyme to convert glucosinolates into sulforaphanes. And unfortunately, myrosinase is sensitive to heat, so heat will kill the myrosinase. But it doesn't destroy the sulforaphanes. And this is why pre-chopping your vegetables for at least 30 minutes before you cook it is important to let the enzyme myrosinase work. You can also eat a variety of cooked and raw vegetables together, because then the raw vegetables will have the myrosinase enzymes. And it's not just broccoli and kale, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, they all have myrosinase and glucoraphanins. Now, these powerful vegetables, they don't just help with breast cancer, they reduce your risk of lung, prostate, colorectal, and stomach cancers. So far, I've really emphasized reducing inflammations with food. And the reason is because the higher your inflammation, the higher risk of cancers. And sulforaphanes, they are so beneficial. They work in a number of ways. Number 1, it appears to block mutated DNA that can lead to cancer. Number 2, it appears to reduce the ability of cancer cells to multiply. And number 3, they are very strong antioxidants, which can help to mitigate the damage caused by free radicals. Now, unfortunately, free radicals are just a part of our life, from air pollution to food additives to preservatives, from the rays of the sunlight. And also, your body makes free radicals with just the normal processes of metabolism. But if you have really high inflammation, chronic inflammation, or an autoimmune disease, you're at risk of getting cancer. I have a history of eczema, which is considered to be an autoimmune disease. That increases my risk of getting cancer, such as lymphoma. Now, lymphoma is a cancer of cells in the lymph node. They are immune cells, like B cells and T cells. Now, the good news is I've controlled my eczema through lifestyle and diet for years because I've been eating foods to lower my inflammation and improve my skin health. This, in turn, calms down my immune system. And everything that I eat, I'm sharing with you on this channel. So if you have autoimmune disease, even if it's eczema, it's imperative that you control it through your lifestyle. Now, these cures may not be immediate, but within days, you will change your metabolism, reduce your inflammation, and over time, you're going to be surprised on how well it works and how good you will feel when you target the right foods to eat and give up the wrong foods that you're eating. And don't forget, when you change your foods, you're changing the input that you're programming into your genes, specifically the trillions of genes in your gut microbiome. Because when you put in the wrong input, you can activate the wrong microbes to cause inflammation in your gut that can then permeate throughout your entire body. Take antibiotics, for instance. When you take an antibiotic, you're actually killing microbes. A lot of your good gut-friendly microbes. And people know now that's not so good for us. But you actually don't kill all your microbes. You allow the weeds to overgrow, like the fungus, or antibiotic-resistant buggers like Clostridium difficile, which actually commonly produces a toxin that causes massive colonic inflammation that then affects your rest of your body. I mean, you're crapping out your guts and you feel like crap. But not everybody with C. diff has symptoms, because some people are simply colonized with C. diff. It's like an opportunistic infection. They're doing okay until you give an antibiotic, you wipe out all the good boogers, and then the bad guys, well, they blossom. And this is another reason why people need to avoid antibiotics and only use them when absolutely necessary. C. diff is known as a superbug, and it's getting more super drug resistant. That means it's getting harder to treat. Besides doctors overprescribing antibiotics, the real problem with antibiotics is that it's fed in massive amounts to our livestock to growth promote them, to get them to market faster, and this breeds massive amount of drug resistance in the bacteria that are in our farm animals. And who interacts with the farm animals? People. So it doesn't take long from that farmer to go and give it to society. And the thing is, that's not a problem just for you and I. This is a global problem because all our life-saving tools are going away. So if you want your children and grandchildren to have antibiotics for their health care, then please participate and keep yourselves healthy so that you don't need antibiotics. Eat less animal products. And when you do eat animals, pay that extra money to demand pasture-raised, antibiotic-free foods. Now, have you ever been wiped out from food poisoning? McDonald's Quarter Pounder has wiped out over 75 people, causing people potentially to get hemolytic uremia syndrome. So far, 10 people have been hospitalized. Not everybody gets a syndrome, and you don't have to get this syndrome to have a bad outcome, because one person actually passed away. E. coli is a normal bacteria in your gut and in the guts of animals. And somehow, either animal or people E. coli contaminated McDonald's food supply. Hemolytic uremic syndrome is caused by specific E. coli that produce sugar toxin. Not everybody who gets this version of E. coli will get the hemolytic uremic syndrome, but a child has an 8 out of 10 chance of getting that syndrome if they get infected with an E. coli that makes sugar toxin. People with this syndrome can stop urinating. They also can get extremely anemic, so they will lose a pink color in their skin as well as in their lower eyelids. They can easily bruise or have tiny red spots on their skin, and when they pee, it could be bloody. And I'm sure these people all will feel wiped out. They're going to be tired, irritable, potentially even altered and unaware mentally. Needless to say, this is a life-threatening condition. So if you think you have this or if you've been exposed to E. coli, go to the emergency room ASAP. Now, number 7 is a red bell pepper, which is rich in carotenoids and vitamin C, two powerful antioxidants. People with higher levels of carotenoid actually have a lower risk of heart disease, improved triglyceride, cholesterol, and men also have improved blood sugars and smaller waists. Carotenoids are primarily found in red, yellow, and orange, as well as green plants. Red bell pepper, carrots, kale. When you eat carotenoids, you're actually helping out your strongest detoxification system called the glutathione redox system, which also needs sulforaphanes for it to function optimally. In your body, carotenoids become vitamin A, an essential fat-soluble vitamin critical for growth and immunity. Children who are vitamin A deficient have a higher mortality when they get an infectious disease. And those who have absorption issues, they're also at higher risk of vitamin A deficiency. So if you're vitamin A deficient, you're going to have a lot of problems. It will cause you the inability to see in low light or xerophthalmia, which can lead to blindness. Deficiency also increases skin and respiratory diseases, measles, diarrhea, and anemia. Now, drug companies, they spend millions of dollars creating topical creams, which are just basically Band-Aids to address skin conditions like eczema. And instead, that vitamin C in that bell pepper, well, that is critical for the skin to repair. That's because vitamin C is a key component in the synthesis of collagen, a structural protein that gives skin its strength and elasticity. And collagen is crucial for wound healing as it helps rebuild damaged skin tissue. If you don't have enough vitamin C, you're not going to have enough collagen. Your skin's going to be weaker, fragile, and it's going to take longer to repair. And this is not an uncommon thing. I see so many people with this exact problem, which has been around for eons. Sailors in the old world learned the hard way that ignoring vitamin C-rich foods is a deadly way to live. Now, I'm sure you've heard of scurvy. It was a major cause of death in sailors during the age of exploration in the 15th and 18th centuries, where they would take long voyages out to sea. So they had to bring all their food. And what did they bring? They brought meat, bread, and milk. They have no vitamin C in it. In some voyages, scurvy killed more sailors than the battles and shipwrecks combined. Sailors with scurvy would experience weakness, swollen and bleeding gums, skin rashes, joint pains, open wounds that won't heal. Doesn't that sound horrible? In severe cases, their teeth would loosen and fall out, their bones would weaken, and they didn't figure it out until 1747, when a British Navy surgeon, James Lind, conducted one of the first controlled clinical trials on scurvy. And he discovered that sailors who consumed citrus fruits, like oranges and lemons, recovered from scurvy, while those who did not, well, they remained sick. And then the British Navy began including these citrus fruits, particularly limes and lemons, in the foods fed to the sailors. And that's why they're known as limeys. By the late 18th century, lime juice was just a standard in the British Navy, which significantly reduced the incidence of scurvy. However, citrus fruits are really not that high in vitamin C. A single red bell pepper has as much vitamin C as 3 limes. The importance of vitamin C goes way beyond your skin health. The number one organ that needs vitamin C, that's your brain. And if you don't get enough for your brain, you're not going to have enough for your skin. Vitamin C is also critical for blood pressure regulation. Now, my favorite way to get vitamin C is to eat a kiwi, which is number 8. Did you know that kiwis can be used to fight common cold symptoms? Kiwis contain polyphenols and flavonols such as quercetin and catechin, which both have anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects. And when you eat kiwis, you reduce the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines. Kiwis are known to boost natural killer cell activity, specifically reducing the severity and duration of colds and sore throats. And as a young mom, honestly, I was always worried that I would get sick or my kids would get sick. And so, because when you have a sick kid, they start dropping weight really quickly. So I tried to keep my kids healthy by having them eat kiwis every day. However, kiwis apparently aren't for everyone, as it's ranked as the top 3 foods for giving people allergies. Now, number 9 are red beets, which are packed with nitrates. Beets are shown to drop systolic blood pressure by 10 points, decrease the time exhaustion by 1 minute and 32 seconds in professional cyclists, and help freedivers hold their breath half a minute longer and help runners feel less tired while performing better. Doesn't that sound like a miraculous food? It's not surprising. Those red beets contain anti-inflammatory polyphenols, fibers, and nitrates that help to open up blood vessels so that you can get more blood flow, which means you get more oxygen to your muscles. The cyclists, they drank about 17 ounces of a 500 milliliter per day, but the divers just took 2.5 fluid ounces. However, the metabolism of beets require not only a healthy gut microbiome, but a healthy oral microbiome that can make beneficial nitric oxide. This is why it's important not to rinse your mouth with mouthwash, because you can actually kill the healthy microbes. But if you want to reduce your germs in your mouth, but not wipe everything out, then consider gargling with green tea or just drinking green tea, which is number 10. Literally, gargling with green tea has been shown to reduce cavity-causing bacteria and the symptoms of respiratory colds. It's amazing that you don't even have to eat the leaf. You just can drink the tea water. Even that has anti-inflammatory beneficial properties. And the most important component appears to be EGCG, epigalactocatechin gallate. Not all green teas are equal. They don't have the same amount of EGCG. And if you want to know which green tea to get, watch the next video.